First thing you need to do is run a page through the ADF, power it on. You need the tray to be in a lifted position. So as soon as it lifts, open the top door, and that stops it with the tray lifted. Then you can power it off. Once it's powered off, lift that part. There's a screw here, here, and here. And there's also a screw here and here on the inside. That's going to take your white caps off. You should just pull off like so. Put those to the side. Once you have that done, you have a screw here, here, and there's one underneath, or two underneath, on both sides of the gray pieces. So you can pull those off. Once you get those screws off, that piece, it does slide up a little bit easier with this up, because it kind of, this piece when it folds down locks into these. So I would leave this piece up for the time being. I'm gonna go ahead and spin it around to get to the other gray ones. There's one right here, one here, and then the two on the sides. So we got this one and this one. The gray piece slides off, once again much easier with this piece up. Now, however, you can put this piece down. The next step, as you can see, this tray is now in the up position because we stopped it in the beginning. You take a flathead, you can kind of just pry this little piece out right here, the nipple. It works best if you twist it, and you see it just kind of lifts there. The other side should come out fairly simple. And at that point, there is a spring down here, but when you lift up, the spring's still there. The reason you're turning it to an upward position is because of this flap right here. When this is down, it locks this in, so you can't pull it out. It has to be in an up position. You can set that to the side. From here, they got a screw right here on the side. You don't have to take it all the way out, just loosen it. It allows this part here to spring up completely. Spin it around again. There's one on this side as well. So you can loosen it. Now you can see this lifts all the way up. Also right down here is the pin screw. As you can see, it's shaped a little different than your regular screws. Don't lose that one. And then they got a little one right here that also you don't have to take all the way out. You can just loosen it. It holds this hinge in. Once that's there, this piece can actually come out completely. It's gonna have a cable over here. I know it feels a little weird, but you can kind of pull a little bit of slack and just let the piece hang there. Let me rotate around a little bit here. So once you're here, there's going to be these 5 screws here on the top. 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 3 right here that are underneath that gray piece that we take out. That's really the whole reason we take that piece off. Alright, so once those are out, there is one more screw right here on the side of this top gear. It is also a different It's a coarse thread screw with a fat head on it. Very specific to that one spot. From this part, you should be able to lift plastics. Oh, sorry, I forgot. There's two little tabs here. You gotta push that one in and push this one in. And now it should come up. Alright. So I'm gonna go ahead and call this a clamshell because that's what it kind of looks like. Some of these come off freely, some of them have a cable in it for a sensor. The ones that have a cable, just let it hang there. So, here we are. This is your motor, obviously. First thing you need to do is pull this piece up. Mind where these little pieces are. They do sit in these little grooves. But you pull that up and you just kind of flex that piece a little bit. This comes out. Recommended clean these and these other rubber rollers while you're in there, because they're a lot harder to do when you're not. You can set that to the side, and then you're going to take this piece, lift it up. If you notice right here, this piece, once it comes out, is keyed. See, it's flatter on two sides. The side of this gear right here, it has a slit in it right here, so that needs to be facing up when you go to put it back in. And then at this point you're gonna have 3 screws. You got one here, here, and here. We're gonna go ahead and take those out. These are, once again, coarse thread fat head screws, just to make note of that. This one can be a little difficult, so I recommend just pulling the belt a little to the side with something. Use a magnetic screwdriver and it should come up. No, just knock it loose till it does. And this one. Alright, so that's, the motor is now going to be loose. Once we're at this point, on this side here, there's a fat gear and a smaller gear. So this gear and this gear need to come off. They have these little plastic C-clips. Usually you can just pop them off with your fingers. If you want to use a screwdriver, you can do that. But that one comes off of there. As you can see, this gear fell out of this little top piece. It goes right here. That's what that screw holds in. It has to be back in there for the drivetrain to work, so don't lose it. Once you get that C-clamp off, both of these bottom gears, the big one and the small one, both come off. They go back on like this. So you can set them down to the side. Now, we have this bushing here that you can pretty much just pull up and twist it, but you do need to pull this C-clip off first. Once again, this is a plastic one. However you need to get to it to get it off is your preference, but it just pops off like the other one did. Put it to the side so you don't lose it. Once you get that gray piece there, it lines up on this side with the grooves, and it should just push out. So when you do it, spin it down, and it should line up with the grooves here. And once it does, it just pops out. And this is what it looks like. Put that to the side. See, now you have this shaft is clear. So back to the motor side. This back belt usually comes off fairly easy. You can walk it off or however. Once the motor mounts are off, it definitely comes off a lot easier. So you can do that one and the front one. The motor will then be pretty much free. You want to unplug it. From there, there is a black wire that runs through. That's going to be your ground. What you can do is just cut that wire completely, because it's tied to a motor that the new one will come with the motor. So like I said, when you take these out, keep the belt with it because they are different lengths, but you can clean these while you're in here. Put that to the side. Don't lose your spring. If you need to take it off, you can do that as well. Same with this rear one. You can leave that one. I don't think that one will fall out, but you have to mind where these gray pieces go. They're bushings and they go in that little slit right there. So once you have cut your ground wire here, the black one, in this cluster right here, there's going to be that black wire. You can pull a little tension on it if you need to find where it is in that cluster. So let's put this back here. Once you're at this point, you're going to open. Underneath here, they got 4 screws that are visible, and they have one right underneath this white plate. Usually you can pop just these 2 pieces off right here. They're velcroed, or sometimes the clip comes out, and you should be able to get your screwdriver in right there. This is going to separate the whole scanner from the flat part here. So we're going to take all of these out. This the bottom ones, it helps if you lift up on the whole bottom. You can get your screwdriver there. Cut that. So now all 5 of those screws are out. You can lay it back down. Alright, so the whole purpose of doing that is so that you can lift. As you can see, this whole piece now can come out freely of the bottom. The whole reason we're doing that is because you need to get to this screw right here. That's where your black ground wire goes to. So you need to take that out. And be very gentle with these cables because they do come off these connectors pretty easy. So what I recommend doing is finding this, your cut cable. Now is where you want to kind of pull it, put a little tension on it. And honestly, you can just pull it out like that, because now it's going to leave one of these without a head on it. Or it should. Alright, so it's not that one. It's not that one. They're kind of weird. They loop it down into this zip tie. But one of these will have a loose cable on it. Or should. So if you can't find it, just put it back on there. That's a good start. need to cut the zip tie off, you can go ahead and do that. I wouldn't recommend it because then your wires get all over the place, but here's our split cable that we had cut off. So everything else is good. These are our 3 we're going to keep. Alright, so back into here. Now, you're going to need your new motor. Go ahead and unwrap it. I can tell you the shipping on these has been a little wonky, so I'll show you what to look for. This shaft here sometimes is this housing right here, the bearing, sometimes is broken. These little tabs will break off because when they wrap it with the shrink wrap, it pulls it in too far and they break it. It's not a big deal as long as you can get the bushing back in its place, because when it goes back into the housing here, those C-clips are going to hold it good and tight. So here's our little ground wire we were talking about. Don't pull it by this by itself. Grab the actual black part of the cable, or you can try and unwind this tape, but if you grab the black part, you should be good to just pull it like this. If you pull it by just that, you're probably going to pull that off, and then you'll have to resolder that housing onto the cable. So motor goes in this way. The black cable goes through this ribbon cable, and you can pull it up like so. I would go ahead and make your connection here just to make it easier, like that, and then just set it right there for the moment, because you need to get this guy back. This is your top rollers here. I find it's easier to hold the belt, hold it all together like that. You see these grooves right here, you got one over there, and you see you gotta move this over to get it to fall into place right there. The bottom one should be in place already down here. So what you want to do is get your shaft there into your hole and just try and set it down in place. The belt sometimes gets in the way, so you gotta walk it over a little bit, but the motor has to be sitting flush without having any play in it. Otherwise, it's probably gonna bind up on you somewhere. What I would do is put it in place and then just spin your rollers like that and make sure they spin freely. Once you think you have the position right, which I don't think I have it right there, feels, see how it wobbles? That's not 100% right in my opinion. Alright, there we go. So once it's there though, you can kind of lean forward a little bit to get this, you gotta get this front one on. That one is very hard to get on once the motor's in place. But once it's there, make sure your belt is on top of the mount. Alright, so you see we're snapped in good there. The back motor, usually you can just roll the belt onto that one. Anyway. Like so. And that's in place. So now you want to go back Get your screws that have the flat head and the coarse thread. You're gonna need 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. And you're gonna put those back in place. Always go backwards when you screw metal screws into plastic. Oop, try not to drop them in there. I can't see. All right, there we go. Hear it snap into place there when you go backwards on the threads. Once again, this belt gets in the way, so if you just move it out the way a little bit, it'll help you get your, oh man, come on, screw, work with me. Alright, because you can pinch the belt down with that screw, and then you'll have to come all back in here. Put a little separation in between your belts here. Alright. The motor is now secure. The rollers are in. Next is going to be the housings on this shaft here, which is going to be this grommet, which when you lift this up, you want to put it in facing down. It's going to line up. Just push it in. And then rotate it. There is a little peg on the end of it that you can put, there's a hole for it, just kind of snaps in there. Once you have that in, you're going to put your small gear first, which is keyed. So you get that one in. Oh, I'm sorry, hold on. We got to put the C-clamp on this end first. Once again, they're plastic, so you can kind of do them by hand. If you feel like it didn't snap in, you can kind of pull a shaft this way just a little bit, just squeeze it, and then you'll see it's in there now. So now we put our gear, and we put our other C-clip. See how it sticks out like that? You can kind of just flex it and pop it on. Now you see it spins, it's on there. And then we're going to put our big gear on here, which is there. And then we had the little gear that goes on this top piece here. And that's how that's going to stay for the moment. Alright, so now we got to put this piece back in. Now, like I told you before, this top gear has a slit in it. You can see right here, it's angled up already. The screwdriver slides in it. It's kind of a challenge to get it in, but you want your shaft to be lined up straight. And you kind of want to put it in here like that and just kind of work the plastic around the other piece of plastic back here. But you want to slide it into that shaft. Like so. Make sure your grommets are in there. And this spring has to be down inside of here. It will be sprung, it's tensioned like that, so that's fine, you can leave it like that. Alright, so once we're there, we're almost done. This needs to go back in, your gear goes to the side. Get that in place. Grommet, the bushings are in their grooves, which is fine. This joker, pop back up a little bit. Alright, so he's good there. Alright, so now at this point, we're ready to put the top of the clamshell back on. Oh, nope, alright, we gotta put this ground wire through. Let's see, so let's get these cables, everything's got a house, get them routed where they need to go. And it's gonna slide ever so slightly through this hole. It's gonna be a little weird, What I've been doing is just pushing it through a little bit and then using a little pick to grab the ring. And don't pull too hard, like I said, because if you do pull the cable out of it, it can become a problem. Alright, so once you got that, you're good to go on this end. Now we're going to put the clamshell back on, which we want to make sure our cable comes up for this specific one. Some of them don't have this sensor, so the cable's not there. But the cable hooks right here. You just get it pop back up in there. And once it's in there, you can kind of make sure this flag right here, this one, goes in this slot. Otherwise, you're gonna have a bad day. All right, so that's there. You kind of just want to jiggle it down. These clips will pop back in. You want to make sure it's all good to go here. Your gears are there. And we're gonna re-screw this. So, once again, fat head screw with the coarse threads. That's gonna hold this top gear in. So we're gonna put that one in, and then we got your 3 regular screws there and your 5 across the top of the clamshell. That one. Always go backwards, otherwise you can cross thread and or strip out the plastic, and then your screw won't hold anything. And we're gonna put them in these holes back here. More. Got the back 2. Alright. Clamshell is back on. I didn't realize this one doesn't have a roller in there, but I will show you that in a second. Alright, so let's go ahead and get the ground screws back into this. It can be a little challenging. What I do is lift it up, and I'll put a screwdriver under the back end so I can see it all. And then basically we're going to line up all our ground wires. Put a screw through them, and we're going to screw it back in. Sometimes you have a little more cable than others, and so it can be harder or not as hard. Alright, so let's get that guy up. Backwards to get the groove, and tighten it down. Once we do that, you just set that back into place. If you want to put a zip tie back on there, you can do that. Alright, so we got to get these screws back in, which they have some tabs that line up. And we're just going to put the screws in. this other top. Don't forget about the one under the white plastic. So the one down here I would leave out for the moment, just because sometimes it helps to be able to get this white plastic piece right here out the way. Because when you try to put all this, there's a little slit right here that these cables slide into. So sometimes you can get that piece of plastic out the way and it just makes things a little easier to line up. And then the plastic piece can snap in, and we can put that screw in after. So once you're here, you can put your side screws back in. There. And right here, this screw can go back in as well, along with your big screw that holds the top of the door on. All right.
Do you have a call for him?
ADF roller for the 527?
Yellow clear roll. I doubt we got any. We haven't look up in there.
Roller goes in, slides in. Should know how to put a roller in by now. Your white piece snaps in. Notice your gearing is still up. At that point, you just take your spring. I put the spring on, and then that's your housing for the spring. So what I do is get that in the spring first and slide it back, and you want to get them little hooks to go underneath the black piece. And that's pretty much there. And then line up your pins on both sides. You can flex it a little bit, and that's in. At this point, you can test it without putting your sides on, but we're just gonna go ahead and put the sides on. Once again, this piece here, it is easier with the top flap up. Slide it in. It's going to take 4 screws. Those 2, we got one on top. Two on top. You can go ahead and put your white plastic on here as well. Slides on, snaps on. Now we got a screw here. And 2, one here and one here. And go ahead and put those in. This is gonna get our back one in back here. And then we're gonna do our front. Lift up the lid. You just put the lid back down after you get it on there. Get all your screws in. Get your white piece in. You got 2 screws on those, one here and one right underneath here. And that should be it. Power it up. You can try and test it again, but that should be the way to do it.